This is pre-market pulse powered by Zintch. A fast, clean read on the tone of the market before the opening bell. No hype, no noise, just the signals that matter. Here's how the market is setting up this morning.
Good morning, cobbers, and welcome to the Zintch.com pre-market pulse for Tuesday, April 28, 2026. The numbers at 6:39 a.m. Eastern Time. Futures are split this morning, a familiar pattern when geopolitics and earnings pull in opposite directions. Dow Futures, 49,459.00. Up 117 points, up 0.24%. S&P 500 Futures, 7,188.00. Down 18.00, down 0.25%. Nasdaq Futures, 27,259.25. Down 181.25, down 0.66%. The Dow is green, the S&P and Nasdaq are red. The split tells the story. Industrial and energy names are catching a bid while tech is pulling back. Oil is the driver. Monday's close. The S&P 500 rose 0.1% to close at a new record. The Nasdaq gained 0.2%, also at a record. The Dow slipped 0.1%. A quiet session that masked the tension building underneath. The big story: Washington appears cold to Iran's proposal. Over the weekend, Iran, through Pakistani mediators, offered to reopen the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for the US lifting its blockade and ending the war. The proposal would postpone nuclear discussions to a later stage. The market initially exhaled, but this morning, the mood has shifted. According to App News and the Times of Israel, Trump appears unlikely to accept any deal that excludes Iran's nuclear program. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has effectively ruled out a deal that sidelines the nuclear issue. The White House confirmed Trump's national security team is reviewing the proposal. But reviewing is not accepting. The result: oil is surging. Brent crude is up 2.8% to $111.27 per barrel. WTI crude is up 3.1% to $99.38. The market had been pricing in a deal. Now it's repricing the possibility that no deal comes. A senior State Department official called Iran's behavior in the Strait an energy wake-up call for global supply chain security. That's diplomatic language for, this isn't ending soon, the BOJ held. But three members dissented. The Bank of Japan announced its rate decision overnight. Rates held at 0.75% for the third consecutive meeting, as widely expected. But the headline is the dissent. Three BOJ board members called for a rate hike, a signal that the hawkish faction is growing. The BOJ also cut its growth forecast for fiscal year 2026 to 0.5% from 1.0%. Raised its core inflation forecast to 2.8% from 1.9%, citing higher crude oil prices. The yen initially strengthened on the hawkish descent before pulling back. The BOJ is caught between rising inflation, driven by $111 oil, and slowing growth. Governor Wedder holds a press conference later today. His tone on the path to future hikes will be closely watched. GM beats big. General Motors reported Q1 2026 earnings before the bell this morning. Earnings per share, $3.70 adjusted versus $2.62 expected. A massive beat. Revenue, $43.62 billion versus $43.68 billion expected. Essentially in line. Net income, $2.6 billion. Full year guidance, raised. GM is trading more than 4% higher in pre-market. The automaker is showing that pricing power and truck demand remain strong even with $100 oil. The guidance raise is the key signal. Management is not flinching. Coca Cola reports at 8:30 a.m. Coca Cola reports Q1 earnings at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, right at the open. Expectations are for organic revenue growth of 4 to 5% and comparable EPS growth of 7 to 8% for the full year. Co has been a relative safe haven in this environment. Consumer staples tend to hold up when energy prices are elevated and growth is uncertain. A beat here would reinforce the defensive trade. Consumer confidence, already weak, getting weaker. The Conference Board's April Consumer Confidence Report drops today. The University of Michigan's final April reading came in at 49.8. Near record lows, driven by inflation fears tied to the Hormuz standoff and $100 plus oil. The CB reading is expected to confirm the same trend. Consumers are feeling the energy shock in their wallets, and confidence data is reflecting it. Asia, mixed session overnight. Asia Pacific markets traded mostly lower as investors assessed the Iran proposal stalemate. Nikkei 225, down 1.02%, giving back some of last week's record gains. Topix, up 0.99%. Divergence within Japan as sectors rotate. Hang Seng, down 0.95%. Hong Kong sensitive to any Hormuz escalation. Shanghai Composite, down 0.19%. Cautious but contained. The BOJ decision and the Iran news are the two dominant forces in Asia overnight. Japan's growth downgrade is a headwind, the hawkish dissent is a tailwind for the yen. Europe, lower on Iran uncertainty. European markets edged lower as investors waited for Washington's response to Iran's proposal. BP and Barclays are reporting earnings in Europe today. Airbus and Novartis also on the docket. The energy cost surge from $111 Brent is hitting European industrials and airlines hardest. Tomorrow, Super Bowl Wednesday. Today is the setup. Tomorrow is the event. Wednesday brings the Fed rate decision, widely expected to hold, but Powell's tone on the path forward matters. Q1 GDP advance estimate. The first read on how the US economy performed in Q1. Microsoft earnings. After the bell. Meta earnings. After the bell. Amazon earnings. After the bell. Alphabet earnings. After the bell. 4 of the 5 largest companies on Earth report within hours of each other. The Fed and GDP in the morning. The Magnificent Four in the evening. It is the most consequential single day of the earnings season. The read. Futures are split because the market is split. The Dow is green on GM's blowout and energy sector strength. The Nasdaq is red because tech is pulling back ahead of tomorrow's mega-cap earnings and the Iran deal uncertainty is keeping risk appetite in check. The Iran proposal is real. Washington's cold reception is also real. Until Rubio or Trump signals flexibility on the nuclear issue, the strait stays closed and oil stays elevated. $111 Brent is not a number the market can ignore for long. It feeds into every inflation reading, every margin forecast, every consumer confidence survey. Today's focus. Coca Cola at 8:30 a.m., consumer confidence mid-morning, BOJ Governor Wedder's press conference, and the setup for Super Bowl Wednesday. The week's biggest moments are still ahead. That's your Zintch.com pre-market pulse for Tuesday, April 28, 2026. Good luck, and goodbye.